The brain is busy. In fact, at some points during the night, your brain is metabolically as active as when you are awake. But it's not that you are thinking. Your brain is active, but not in creating the thinking mind, but your brain is nonetheless active. Now, you see, if you take a sedative, you impair your brain and it cannot clean itself and it cannot help the cardiovascular system and it doesn't give a boost to the immune system. And that's very likely why the sleeping pills shorten life.
Welcome to Radiant Mom Rising. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted. I'm your host, Mary Dibble, and in each episode, we dive into amazing stories, insights, and conversations that help moms like you chase your dreams and embrace your worth. Let's rise and shine together. Hey, Radiant Mamas. Welcome back to another empowering episode of Radiant Mom Rising. Today's conversation is a must listen, especially if you've ever struggled with sleep or turned to sleeping pills just to make it through the night. I'm joined by Dr. Lucinda Sykes, a retired medical doctor who's on a mission to help women reclaim their health without relying on harmful medications. We dive into the real research-backed risk of sleeping pills, particularly for women in midlife, and the powerful natural alternatives you can start using today. This episode will not only inform you, it might just transform how you think about rest, healing, and your well-being. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the show. Today I have Lucinda with me. Thank you so much for joining us.
Wonderful, Mary. So good to be with you and your audience.
I'm so glad to have you. I'm excited. This topic we're about to get into, I'm excited. I'm going to let you start by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, I am a retired medical doctor, stayed in Toronto these many years. And my great joy in life now, I continue to work in a way. My great joy is to help women get better sleep, especially women advancing into the second half of life. And today in this podcast, my particular focus, if you're interested, is the risks of sleeping pills. Because I believe that medicine is failing in this regard, that sleeping pills are still being overprescribed. And it hurts me to see this going on. And now I can speak very forthrightly because I'm no longer practicing medicine, although I do have a private consulting practice helping women get better sleep, but I don't do it in a medical way. I'm not diagnosing medical illness. And the sleeping pills, they're just a very bad idea. And Mary, I'm not going to be talking about my personal opinions. I'm going to be relying on the research because there's dozens of research papers showing that they're a bad idea. But it is a personal thing on my part. My own grandmother, my beloved grandmother, died far too young from Alzheimer's disease. And now the research shows that if you take sleeping pills, you are at double the risk for Alzheimer's. And you know, my grandmother took sleeping pills most nights. I used to go to the drugstore, Mary, to get sleeping pills for my grandmother, get grandma's medicine. And now, these years later, I'm reading the research and I'm saying, oh my God, those pills were harming her.
I'm so
and
sorry.
It pains me to think that that's still going on.
Oh yeah. The pharmaceutical industry is awful. I mean, they're just about money. They could care less. And so it's nice to see that more and more people are stepping up and exposing and speaking truth to the health conditions and the chronic illnesses and diseases that the stuff is causing. So yeah, please tell us more about what you've learned. I mean, you've been a doctor, you know what that's like. You've seen it all.
Oh, yes, I have. And for the last 23 years of my license to practice, I was teaching mindfulness-based stress reduction to patients who were referred by other doctors. This is a medical program. Patients whose health is being injured by stress, because so many medical conditions are worsened by stress. So I taught for many years without needing a prescription pad, still doing very credible work. and feeling wonderful about it. I had to close the clinic when COVID came, and I could no longer teach the in-person groups. So I figured after 40 years of medical practice, that was a good time to end, but I still have the energy. And my energy now is going into highlighting this serious problem. And I'm very glad to speak to your audience because I suspect that there will be a few members of your audience who are taking sleeping pills or perhaps are considering it as an option. And I just want them to know what the research shows.
Yeah, please do. Tell us a little bit about what you found in the
Okay,
research.
okay. Well, let me.
Yeah.
Okay. It goes back all the way back to 1979 when we see some early research coming out of the American Cancer Society showing that women who were taking sleeping pills had an increased death rate of, at that point, 1.5 times. So the women who were filling out the questionnaires for the American Cancer Association, the ones who were taking sleeping pills were dying earlier. And that was observed, but it wasn't followed up. But a couple of decades later, a terrific researcher, Dr. Daniel Kripke, a psychiatrist, an American psychiatrist, did a very special research project. He and his colleagues worked with the medical records, the electronic medical records of an integrated health system in the United States. This system was located in Western Pennsylvania, as I understand. So he wasn't meeting with the patients, but he and his colleagues were examining the medical records. And what they were looking for, Mary, is they wanted to see what was happening to the health of people who were taking sleeping pills. So he took the records and he isolated 10,000 medical records of patients who had been prescribed sleeping pills. And he contrasted their medical records with the records of 20,000 people who were not prescribed sleeping pills. And it was a very well-designed study. He and his colleagues took care to select equivalent patients. So they had a similar number who were maybe drinkers and smokers and equivalent ages and so on. So they were very balanced, very similar groups. But the big difference between the two groups was one group were taking sleeping pills and the other were not. And he and the colleagues looked at the medical records over a 2.5 year period. So this wasn't for the full duration of the medical records. It was a 2.5 year period, starting with the sleeping pills. And what they discovered, I still find it astonishing, they found that the patients who were taking sleeping pills had a higher mortality rate, a higher death rate. And it was over 3 times greater than the death rate of those who were not taking the sleeping pills. And further, he found that the more sleeping pills they were taking and the longer they took them, the higher the death rate. It was what in science we call, it was a dose-dependent response. So the more sleeping pills, the shorter the life expectancy. And he further discovered that those who were taking the most sleeping pills, they call it the upper tertile, so the upper third of patients taking sleeping pills, they had an increased cancer rate of 35%. And subsequent studies have also associated sleeping pills to increase cancer risk. And so Dr. Kripke's work was excellent, so well designed, so carefully executed. And then 2 years later, another study came out of Great Britain, also focusing on the difference between patients taking sleeping pills and those who were not. This was research information coming from general practice. I think it was more than 300 general practices in the United Kingdom. So it was thousands of patients. And it wasn't quite as well designed a study because it extended over 7 years rather than Dr. Kripke's 2.5 years. But still, nonetheless, it showed that people who were taking sleeping pills were dying at over twice the rate of those who were not taking sleeping pills. And then, I hope I'm not overwhelming you with details, but it's nice to know that this is valid stuff. Another 2 years later, The Australian Psychiatry Journal, again, a very credible mainstream medical journal, did a review of several hundred research papers, and they concluded that yes, indeed, people taking sleeping pills have a higher death rate than do those who are not taking sleeping pills. And this was confirmed finally last about this topic just a couple of years ago. This was a study coming out of Taiwan. They were looking at the thousands of medical records of Taiwanese citizens who were enrolled in the insurance plan in Taiwan. And they determined, get this, that women who were taking sleeping pills were having a shorter life expectancy of 5 years. They were, isn't that amazing? It still amazes me. And it's there in the research. It's there in the research. That's why I do not understand why the medical profession continues to overprescribe these things.
It's because it's all for money. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all they care about. They really don't care about the outcomes. And so this is why understanding like this for ourselves and allowing ourselves to be open to this information and make decisions based on it. Like no one's going to advocate for you. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for your children, for your family. So it's so important to not just listen to this stuff, but really like think about, because that's the thing right here. I can imagine like someone listening and being like, okay, but I can't, because I know people who struggle with sleep. So, obviously it's easy to take the pill and get whatever sleep, even though a lot of times it, like you say, it causes you to be groggy, and it really is obviously terrible for your health and the longevity of your life. So, with
let me clarify for you. Can I just? What's crucial is that sleeping pills do not induce natural sleep.
I bet not.
Sleeping pills are sedatives. A sedated brain is not a sleeping brain. So sedation, these chemicals, what they're doing is they're activating the brain through, I won't get too fancy, but we'll say through the GABA system. Now, the brain's GABA system slows down the brain. One researcher says the GABA system at extremes shuts down the brain. And so, of course, the thinking mind, it shuts down. But the problem is we don't want to shut our brain down while we're sleeping, because our brain is doing a whole lot of very important things while we are sleeping. The brain is cleansing itself. The brain is boosting the immune system. The brain is organizing our memories. The brain is giving us insight. That's why we wake up in the morning. We've often figured out a few things. The brain is balancing the cardiovascular system, relaxing the heart and the blood pressure. It's doing this. It's active. The brain is busy. In fact, at some points during the night, your brain is metabolically as active as when you are awake. But it's not that you are thinking. Your brain is active, but not in creating the thinking mind, but your brain is nonetheless active. Now, you see, if you take a sedative, you impair your brain, and it cannot clean itself, and it cannot help the cardiovascular system, and it doesn't give a boost to the immune system. And that's very likely why the sleeping pills shorten life.
Yeah. Makes complete sense. And that's like so powerful to know right there. And, so, if someone's listening and they're just like, well, I do struggle with sleep. Have you found things that really would work for them naturally that would help them?
It's a complex problem. And that's possibly why medical professionals will default to the ease of writing a prescription.
Yeah.
In fact, there's one research paper, I have it. The title of the research paper is "Sometimes It's Easier to Write a Prescription." That's a quotation from a physician who had been interviewed about the use of sleeping pills in general practice. It is harder. Like, I help women get better sleep. And, you need to spend time with the woman. You listen, and it extends over weeks to help her rebalance her sleep. But if you give her a prescription for sleeping pills, she sedates her brain, the mind shuts off, the woman thinks she had a good sleep, even though in the morning, she maybe doesn't feel as restored as she does when she has had a good sleep,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like another sedative, Mary, is alcohol. Alcohol also affects the same system in the brain. Alcohol works through the GABA system. And I think we all know that if you have maybe one too many drinks, maybe you do get dozy and you kind of fall asleep. But in the morning, you didn't have a good sleep. It's because you weren't having a natural sleep. Your brain was drugged, you were sedated, but you were not sleeping in a natural way. So the worry is that women think of the pills as an option. They can't sleep. They think, oh gosh, I've got to get to sleep. So they take the pill, which sedates the brain. And it's not only a risk to the brain in that way. Further, if you begin to take sleeping pills on a regular basis, even for a couple of weeks, your sleep becomes worse. You develop something called sleep drug withdrawal or drug tolerance. Your brain gets habituated to these drugs. The brain, the receptors reconfigure themselves, and it's harder to get to sleep without the sedative.
Yes, yep. That's how
So
addiction.
if you're thinking of the pill as a kind of option to sleeplessness, it's not the way to think. Further, the research shows that, yes, it's true. If you have insomnia, that affects your life expectancy. But if you are taking sleeping pills, your life expectancy is even worse.
Wow.
The pill does not correct the insomnia. And medicine is changing. I mean, I'm not a renegade. This is real medicine, but it's still being overlooked. But in medicine, there is an acknowledgement that psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral psychotherapy, can really help people sleep. It is better than taking pills, but it takes longer. There's fewer of us, practicing in this way. And it's kind of easier just to write the prescription. And it's easier for the patient in a way if they don't understand that it's not real sleep. They think, oh, well, why do that, that cognitive behavioral therapy? Why bother with that? I just take the pill. So that's why I'm here, is to just really give the information so that you can have a more balanced opinion about the use of these things.
That's so important. And I thank you for being that voice and speaking up and helping educate people on this, because like you
Yeah,
say,
this is
a lot of
education.
it is a lot of people, they go to their doctors and they trust them. And so they share these symptoms that they're having. And so when the
Yes,
doctor's like, hey, take this will help. I mean, you don't always
yes.
question that, right? So it's like,
I understand.
yeah.
That's part why, you see, I am a physician and I am not speaking outside the profession. I am no longer practicing medicine, but I'm still ripe as a physician, and I understand
How that works.
medicine, and I understand the research. Now, if your listeners are wondering, what the heck is this woman saying? They can look at some of the research. I have a number of blogs that list these research papers there.
Hey, Mama, quick break from the episode because I need to tell you this. Are you tired of feeling stuck, spinning your wheels, knowing deep down you're meant for more, but not quite sure how to get there? Listen up, because I've opened up a few one-on-one coaching spots just for moms like you. This is your chance to get personalized, powerful support to help you stop playing small and finally start turning your goals into real life-changing results. Whether it's launching your business, building confidence, or finding clarity in the chaos, I've got you. Let's ditch the overwhelm and create the transformation you've been craving with the plan that works for your life. Head on over to marydibblecoaching.com right now and schedule your free Radiant Mom Breakthrough session before those spots fill up. Okay, now let's get back to the show.
They could even take those research studies to their own doctor and discuss it. Yeah. That information is available at lucindaresearch.com. And as well, they can download my PDF. I make it very easy. It's lucindagift.com. And that little PDF gives you my email. So if you have questions, audience, send me a question. I'd be very happy to reply. I reply to every email I get. And if you do send an email and I don't reply, send it again. Sometimes it gets lost in the mail. But
Yeah.
you can use me as a bit of a backup, and then you talk to your doctor.
Absolutely. And I love that you're giving also outside of the education, like you're also providing another solution. And that is so important because
Oh,
that's
yes.
always the next question for so many is like, well, then what do
Yes.
I do? Then how do I get my sleep? Like what?
Yes.
So, that, and you said you do the hypnotherapy?
Well, cognitive behavioral
Hmm.
therapy
Okay.
is a type of psychological approach.
Mm-hmm.
And there's four main elements to it. One is to help women get over the habit of lying in bed trying to sleep, and the habit of using the bed to lie there, and they can't sleep, but still they want to sleep. And that causes trouble. And it's also a system in which women are helped to do things other than try to get to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a system that emphasizes what we call sleep hygiene. And that's what my PDF, Happy Sleep Secrets, and that's what Happy Sleep Secrets does, is it itemizes sleep hygiene, but in a digestible way. That all belongs under the rubric of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yes,
That's awesome that you
yes,
do that and that you share because you're right. That's the thing. It's like sometimes you're right that some of the best things for us take work, maybe a little
yes.
harder, but it's so worth it when you come out and see the results and the outcome in such a healthier manner that
Oh,
not
yes,
only that's also longevity. Like I said, a lot of the things that
yes,
you see in the holistic world, these are not things that you just do for a period of time and then you're just like cured. No, this is creating new and healthier lifestyles for yourself so that you
happiness.
get to exactly, you get to enjoy life in the
Yes.
way you're meant to. And
The research shows that cognitive behavioral therapy helps with depression.
oh yeah.
The research shows that people who are able to give up sleeping pills report that they feel happier, they feel less stressed,
Oh, yeah.
and get this, Mary,
Yeah.
they sleep better.
I bet so. Yeah, I bet they
You
do.
know,
Yes,
they,
because like you say, I mean, for me personally, like I had no knowledge of, but it makes complete sense now that you've explained it. But
yes,
I didn't know that taking a sleeping pill actually practically shuts your brain down. So it's like it's
yes,
not getting
that's
to do
it.
its proper job that it needs to do so that you can function in
Yes,
the world. So that right there is huge, and
it's a
really thinking about what,
sedative.
yeah. And I see me personally, I'm so against most prescription drugs because I do believe like it's just for me it blows my mind, right? When you're watching a commercial, right? And they're talking about have
Yes.
taking this thing for one thing and then they list like 100 like all these other
Oh,
like side effects and I'm like so you're fixing one thing just to cause all these other problems that
yes,
sound a
that's the
lot worse.
shadow.
A lot worse than
That
what you
is the
originally were dealing
shadow.
with. Yes, right?
Yes. And
I'm
in a way, it's not that the drug industry is the problem. The real problem is that it has too much influence on medical practice. If the physicians were more conscious and devoted to the well being of the patient,
yeah.
the drug industry would be there making the drugs that are useful, but the physician would be the gatekeeper and prevent the poor patients from taking things that are not good for them.
Yeah.
And that's so I'm not really hostile to the drug industry. They're wanting to make their money, but they have far too much influence in medical practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they should be allowed, as a doctor, you should be allowed to even tell somebody just that healthier dieting or exercise,
Yes,
something that's
yes,
going out in the sun, it can be just enough for
yes,
you to change your mental health and physical health.
yes.
And it's like some doctors I've heard are get in trouble for that. Like it just depends on where you're at, and it's just nice to see this shift and people paying
Oh,
attention to their
yes,
health, caring, making this world healthier again because it goes so farther than even the drugs. It's in our foods, the things that's put in there, and
yes.
it's just so much out there. And I love this right
Oh,
here that
yes.
you're helping because sleep is so crucial,
Oh, yes.
so
The
crucial to our
ultra
health.
Ultra processed foods are another topic.
I
But
know, right? We could do a whole episode.
I mean, it's all in the same gestalt.
It
It's all
is.
the
It really
same.
all is
Yeah.
interconnected, and it's all
Yeah.
about really just caring about yourself and really taking the time, like Lucid is offering, research it for yourself. Like if you
Yes.
hear things is one thing, but take the time if you need to research this stuff yourself. You don't have to always take the word of everything that you hear, which is why a lot of people are led in the wrong way because you don't want to be a sheep. Like go out there and really look into the
Yes.
stuff for yourself before
Yes.
making a decision of what you want to choose to believe. It's something that's helped me a lot in shifting my beliefs and my perspective in this world and on so many topics. Was just taking the time to actually go out there and look for the truth myself rather than believing like what mainstream media says or what, things are always told, because there's only so much out there that you can that's really facts. So it's really important that you truly soak that in and really find a way to find the facts for yourself before making any decisions. And I know our time is coming to an end, so I just want to
Yeah,
open
I
up the
welcomed
floor.
your invitation when I was glad to see your invitation because I read about you and I thought it was a great invitation that I'm speaking to your audience.
I do
I hope
too.
that they benefit from it and they're welcome to download the stuff and send me questions. I will reply. Good luck to
Absolutely.
them. Take it to
Absolutely.
their doctor and ask the doctor what the doctor thinks.
Yes, exactly. And
And there's them
well, I
up
always
too.
open the floor too. Is there any final piece of advice that you'd like to share?
Well, if you download Happy Sleep Secrets, the odds are that there's one, it's kind of itemized in 7 groups of ways to support your sleep based on the sleep science. And it's very likely that at least one of those categories you're not doing. And check that out. Notice you mentioned light. You're invited to experience the full light in the morning. Maybe you're someone who stays at home and, or about physical activity. Maybe you have the kind of,
Mhm.
inertia. It's easy to overlook it because in modern life, let's face it, the mind is like a squirrel going,
Yes.
and no wonder we get addicted to these pills because they sedate the brain. The squirrel mind goes, but of course, all the other good stuff that the brain does, it goes too.
Yeah. So that's I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing this amazing information. And
Great to meet
please,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah, definitely go check out her list, you guys. Go check out the PDFs, learn from this, do your research, and just be mindful. Just really be mindful about
Yes,
what you're putting into
yes,
your bodies.
yes. Pay attention. Your
Yeah,
body knows what it wants if you pay attention. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for
beautiful.
joining us on the show today.
Best of luck to you and your audience too.
Thank you. This was such an important topic. So grateful to have had Dr. Lucinda here with us today to share with you all. Here are the key takeaways from today's episode. You deserve better sleep, and there are effective, natural ways to achieve it without relying on medication. You may not realize it, but sleeping pills can be harming your health over time, especially increasing your risk for Alzheimer's, cancer, and earlier mortality. You have the power to improve your sleep through science-backed techniques like mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy without side effects. You don't have to accept exhaustion as your normal. There are healthy, sustainable strategies to help you feel rested and energized again. You can be proactive with your long-term health by learning alternatives to pharmaceuticals and tuning into your body's natural rhythms. You're not alone. Many moms face sleep challenges, and support is available through resources like Dr. Sykes' Happy Sleep Secrets Guide. You can model healthy coping habits for your children by choosing mindful, nourishing ways to deal with stress and sleeplessness. If you want to learn more about Lucinda and her work, be sure to visit her today. Thank you so much for being here, Mama. I hope this episode gave you the encouragement or clarity you needed. If it did, feel free to share it with a mom friend. It's a powerful way to pay it forward and help another woman rise. Now, listen closely. Next week is a big one. We're just one episode away from officially announcing the 100th episode giveaway. And trust me, you do not want to miss your chance to win. Especially if you've been a loyal listener, you've already done most of the work to be entered. So make sure you tune in next week to get all the details and find out how to claim your spot in the celebration.
Also, if you're a mama in business or dreaming of starting one, come join us at the next Mama Means Business networking event. It's your space to connect, collaborate, and grow with other women who get it. Just follow me on Eventbrite so you don't miss out. And finally, if you've been feeling that inner pull, that sense that you're meant for more, that nudge to finally say yes to your dreams, you don't need to force it. Just visit marydibblecoaching.com and learn more about the Radiant Mom Breakthrough Call. I've opened a few spots for moms who are ready for real transformation, and I trust that the right ones will feel it in their heart and know when it's time. I'm here when you're ready, and I'd be honored to walk beside you. Until next time, stay radiant, stay rooted in your worth, and get ready to celebrate with me next week. Much love.